for tuning back in. My name is Funny. In my channel I talk about tropical plants and sometimes I talk about Hoyas, if not most of the time. Well, if this content is something that you will find interesting, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. In today's video, I want to discuss something that is pretty annoying and a lot of people may have experienced if they keep Hoyas. So it is about stem rotting. Stem rotting is something relatively common in Hoya because Hoya is a plant that they need water. Of course, all of the plants need watering, but it doesn't really need so much water that potentially will rot the roots. But sometimes stem rot is also an issue that people will encounter. And why stem rot happened potentially could be the stem is too long without root that is emerged in the soil substrate. In my case, I use pond. Sometimes the pond is too moist, even though it's difficult to overwater that cause root rot, but sometimes the substrate could just be too moist for a long period of time. Because of that, the stem also does not have root to absorb water, which makes the surrounding of the stem to be too damp. Then it will lead to stem rot. Well, this is one of the causes that I have experienced. I'm sure that there are more reasons for stem rot. But in today's video, I want to share my experience and what I have done. I want to show you today, step by step, how I identify stem rot and what I have done after I identify stem rot and what are the results. So you will see from the day when I saw stem rot and then to today, then I can show you there are some new growth in the part that I have done some surgery on. This one here is an example of an unhealthy stem. So if you remember, this is one of the stem of the Hoya leptophilica. The entire plant is very healthy. As you can see, there are lots of air roots. But this is something that is important for us to always remember to check it regularly. So this morning when I looked into the plant, there is a stem that has yellowed up like this. So what I'm trying to do here, it could be a bit too late because this one is already completely yellowed. And here, if you see, it's a bit soft as I can tell. So how you know that it is not alive is, first of all, important thing is to sanitize your scissors. Get some of the alcohol, so then you make sure that all of the cutting equipment are all sanitized. And if you look into this one here, if you cut it off, it's like very mushy. If you can see, this one here is unfortunately dead. This is another example. If you see here, like this area, it looks a bit yellowed in this area. What I hope is that these air roots on the side could become new roots for this plant. So then it could support itself on the top. There are a lot of air roots over here and air roots over here as well. What I will do is to reduce the probability of this whole stem become yellowed like this one. So this one here, I am too late to thrive back the entire stem. But this one here, as you can see, it is all green still. So what I will try to do is to cut here. So then the plant on the top could still be able to thrive back. So let me do the same thing to sanitize the scissors. And let's see if this one is alive. So you see that this one here is one node, and then this one here is another node. There is also new leaf coming up. So what I will try to do is to chop, say, from here. Okay, so you see there is white sap coming up. So this means this stem is alive and it's in fact very healthy. And then the second thing you want to do is to dip the cutting into cinnamon. That's the easiest thing you can get in a household condition. But I'm sure that you have some other ones that you can find particularly for cuttings in your country. But I use cinnamon. It works every time for me. So for the cut part here, I have already dipped cinnamon. The tips over here is to keep this one air dried before you plant the plant again. So I'm going to keep this one in the air surface area to dry it for say 30 minutes. So this one is one part you should sanitize, or you should dip in the cinnamon. And this one I also want to do it for this here. So this will prevent bacteria gets into the cutting itself. There you go. All right, now that we have waited for 20 to 30 minutes, now I'm going to replant this one into the existing pond. So what I'm trying to do is to keep the leaf face up, and I'm just going to gently put this one on top. So I'm trying to keep the root down and keep the leaf itself face up. So like that, just briefly put the stem on top, so then I can avoid the stem to rot if it keep into the pond too deep. Otherwise it will become like this. So now it is 3 weeks. I have chopped and performed the surgery for the Hoya liptophilica. The stem that we talked about is the stem over here. The stem that I mentioned, it is a bit yellowed on the bottom, and I have to chop the upper part, so then the upper part may have a chance of survival. And this part, which I chopped, actually managed to push out a new growth on the right hand corner. Do you see that? Zoom in over there. So this is a good sign of the plant actually saved itself, because the air roots that has grown is supporting the plant, even though beneath that is not alive. And then another part that I have is over here. This entire stem is that part that I have chopped off, and this yellowed part is the part connected to that. So when you see this one, these two new leaf is grown. It originally have some new leaf from the original stem that at the time when I cut, but it managed to continue growing, so that's good. And another good thing that I noticed is it is trying to push out another new point of growth on the very end of the stem. So that's also a good sign. So in total, there will be 2 new growth points. So this is the example that I can share with you, is that don't be afraid of chopping it, because if I don't chop this one, I will have entire stem dead. But now I actually have 1, 2, 3 growth point, just because I chopped it in time. Thank you for watching until now. So I can summarize a few takeaway that is very key if you want to solve your stem rot problem. First is to identify. Identify by always observing your plant. If there is anything like yellowish and soft in the stem, that you should identify to be treated. Second is the timing. You should treat it as soon as possible. When you see there is a stem rot, don't wait and see that maybe the plant could heal themselves. Just give it another 5 days, just give it another week and see how it could potentially work. Unfortunately, most of the time it won't heal itself. Most of the time it will just deteriorate, and in the end, just like what I showed in the example, I can't retrieve my plant, it just died. So act fast is the second most important part. And the third part is to keep the plant in a warm area. That's very important because warm area will promote root growth. So yeah, these are the 3 key points I hope you can take in my own lesson learned. All right, well, until next time, I hope everyone is staying safe and have a good day. See you next time. Bye.